Good day, this is Charles Montgomery from www.ktlit, and today is the third segment of our 300 Seconds On. 300 Seconds On is a short video clip about Korean literature, and that timer is to remind me not to go over 300 seconds. Today we're going to talk about a pretty famous Korean author. He's been translated into at least English and French, and probably much more that I'm unaware of, and that's Yi Mun-yol. Yi Mun-yol is, he's in his 60s now, and he started writing when he was just about 30, and in that time he wrote something like 20 novels and 50 short stories, just really a prodigious output. The most important thing perhaps about Yi Mun-yol occurred to his family during the Korean Civil War, and that was his father supported the North. Not only did his father support the North, but his father defected to the North, leaving Yi Mun-yol and the remainder of the family in the South. This created for Yi Mun-yol and his family a stigma. And as you read Yi Mun-yol's writing, it's always good to keep that experience in mind, because it quite clearly affected the kinds of things he wrote, his political leanings, and in some cases, one of which we'll talk about, it also affected the choice of things he wrote about. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of the books that he wrote that have been translated into English. And the first is An Appointment with My Brother. An Appointment with My Brother is the story of a man who wants to meet his father in the North. I think already you can see Yi Mun-yol's life is impinging on his fiction. He goes up north, but not in time. His father dies. Instead, he meets his brother, and there's some really very interesting conversations between the two brothers, brother from the North, brother from the South, in which they sort of try to hash out family and ideological issues. And then in classic Korean fashion, these problems are to some extent fixed by a night of strong drinking. The second work that I'd like to discuss is available online, and it's available in a paperback and a hardback, and it's The Poet. And this is a book that might have been interesting to Yi Mun-yol because it's about someone in a similar situation. It's about Kim Sak-hat. Kim Sak-hat was a poet whose family had been disgraced by his grandfather, I believe. And so in response to this particular disgrace, Kim Sak-hat put on a bamboo hat and wandered the countryside. During his life, he exchanged his poetry for lodging, for food. Occasionally he used it to seduce women, and sometimes he actually used it in something very much like battle rap. He would challenge other poets to have contests, poetry contests, and he had a very clever trick in which he would recite poems in Chinese, Hanja, that would mean one thing in Hanja, but when you listened to them in Korean, they would mean another thing. So he's a very clever poet, and this is a really interesting book, The Poet by Yi Mun-yol. The book for which he's perhaps most famous, Our Twisted Hero, and Our Twisted Hero won the Yi-Song Award in, I think, 1987. Really great book, can be read two ways. It's the story of a young man who moves from the big city to the small city and believes he will be sort of the hero, the champion, the smartest person in his school. Instead, when he gets there, he finds that the classroom is run by a bully. The bully runs the classroom with the tacit acceptance of the teacher. The teacher loves that his classroom is run in an orderly fashion, that basically everything is always clean, chores get done. And the narrator, who is not the twisted hero is the bully, the narrator challenges this regime and just gets beaten down horribly. He simply can't. There's too much social pressure for him to succeed. He succumbs to that regime. That regime is eventually overthrown when another teacher comes in and sees what's happened. And this is a really interesting, this can be read just as a story of school bullies and going to a new town. So it can be read by 5th or 6th graders really on that level. But it also combines some elements of William Golding's Lord of the Flies and maybe Orwell's Animal Farm in the way that it's a metaphor of what dictatorship and power and absolute power can do. And even more importantly, it talks a little bit about what happens when that power is removed. So really interesting book, Our Twisted Hero. Last book, just to demonstrate his width, is Twofold Song, and this is a love story. And this love story is amazing, surreal. It goes in and out of what I would call reality, but it shows a complete another side. And I should also say that it has something you don't have. It has an autograph by Yi Mun-yol to me. So those books are the books that are most easily available. An Appointment with My Brother, Twofold Song, Our Twisted Hero, and The Poet. And you can find all of those on Amazon, and all of those are relatively inexpensive. I should say I have drunk with Yi Mun-yol, and he's a prodigious drinker and funny storyteller, and I would do it again if I had a chance. And Yi Mun-yol, 5 great books, and that is 300 seconds.